Good afternoon. My name is Chad Snyder. I use he and him pronouns, and I am the commissioned lay minister at Merging Waters Unitarian Universalist Congregation. We are a community that draws on these shared values of mindful interdependence, authentic curiosity, and courageous love. And we welcome you who are joining us here in person, and if you're joining us online. It is good that we can be together each week in whatever ways we can. If you are here with us in person, we share space with United Church of Christ, New Brighton, and we are glad that you are here to share that space with us. We ask that everyone wear a name tag, do as I say, not as I do, in an effort to practice radical hospitality and to build community. And there are some available on the welcome table if you don't have one handy. Few announcements. We encourage everyone to take care of your body during the service, engage in ways that help you feel connected. You can doodle, there's some fidget stuff around, stretch, fireside space in the back if you just need to get up and move around. If you have a pastoral care need, please feel free to reach out to Reverend Krista. Any newcomers are welcome to our programming, so I don't know that I see any newcomers here today, but if you know somebody that might be interested, please bring them. Everyone is welcome to any of our activities. And if you are new to Merging Waters, please consider signing up to receive our weekly e-news, which gives details about and links for all of our events. You can include your email on the sign-up sheet in the welcome table. Check a box to give us permission to add you to the mailing list. And online, there is a connection card on our webpage. I promise we don't deluge you with emails. Are there any other announcements? Hearing none. Joining me in worship today are Reverend Krista, Bruce, our music director, our lovely tech team in the back of Kate and Byron, making it all possible for you to hear us here and online. Again, welcome to our service today. We gather in hope that these services provide a time of sanctuary, reflection, connection, and joy. Now we will light our chalice here in person and encourage and invite those of you who are online to light one at home. Please feel free to type into the chat if you are lighting yours and where you are.
Our opening reading this afternoon is from the Reverend Dr. David Breeden, called Belonging. Belonging is the warmth of a hand you hold out.
The nod across the room that says, I see you.
Belonging is not agreement, but the invitation to the table.
The invitation to be whole.
Belonging is the story that changes because you arrived.
The circle that widens because we are here.
Belonging is the lit in the song sung together.
Made more true because it holds your note.
Belonging is a promise, not that you must become us,
but that you already are.
This summer, I gave a lot of preambles to our services as I was experimenting and trying different things. And today is another one of those days with a little preamble to help you all understand where we're going and what we're doing in worship today. Today, the name of our service is Superheroes and Deconstructing That Narrative, and talking about belonging. Often we think of the superhero narrative as this above human being that is perfect and flawless and powerful and able to do all the things. But along with that superhero narrative is a sense of loneliness. So recently, there was a new movie with a new set of superheroes called K-pop Demon Hunters. Who's seen it? A couple people? A couple not? That's okay. Today's service, we're going to lean really heavily on looking at this story, and we'll tell you about it and the parts that you need to know. There will be spoilers. This is your heads up. Yes, I know. And you'll get to experience a little bit of this culture, of Korean culture as well as K-pop culture, through this movie. But we're talking about it because it shifts the narrative about what superheroes are and what their purpose is in the world in really subtle but profound ways that connect deeply to our sense of belonging in the world. This song also makes, a number of these songs also make Chad and I cry, so we'll try and hold it together as best we can. And it's been the #1 watched movie on Netflix of all time, including 4 weeks in a row of over 20 million views per week. It went from Netflix to the box office because of its popularity. It also had 4 of the songs in the top 10 billboards at the same time. This movie has broken record after record after record. And I think it's important for us as a congregation to understand what it is in pop culture that's speaking to people right now and how it connects to our values as Unitarian Universalists, because this movie definitely does. So as an introduction, for our opening hymn, we're going to play the movie from the song Golden, and it has words on the screen with the video, and I invite you to sing along as you can. Lenny is probably going to go out of the room because this is the one song he doesn't like. But be aware that this is a cultural encounter. For some of you, it may feel fun and exciting. For others of you, it may feel a little uncomfortable. And that is part of the service today. Chad and I will be reflecting on both the songs and the lyrics and the message of the whole story throughout the service. So please enjoy Golden by Huntrix. Welcome to K-pop Demon Hunters. In Golden, we see each of our 3 main heroines tell just a little bit of their story. And stories are a big part of who we are as a faith community. And each Sunday when we gather together, we take time to tell our own stories, to hear from one another what is on our hearts and what is happening in our lives. As we return now to the world of K-pop Demon Hunters, let's go a little deeper into this story. There's a lot of the story that the telling happens within the music, very intentionally. So Chad and I are basing our homilies around the last song in the movie called "This Is What It Sounds Like." So I want to read a few lines from that song to you, and then we're going to show another clip that kind of explains a little bit of what the basic premise of the story is. So a few lines from "This Is What It Sounds Like." Why did I cover up the colors stuck inside my head? I should have let the jagged edges meet the light instead. Show me what's underneath. I'll find your harmony. The song we couldn't write, this is what it sounds like. We're shattering the silence. We're rising, defiant, shouting in the quiet, "You're not alone." We listened to the demons. We let them get between us, but none of us are out here on our own.
Well, that's a big job. It's a really big job for 3 young women, for 3 of anybody. To keep the demons out of our world, to battle and slay the demons that manage to slip in among us, to feed on our souls. And while doing that, like it wasn't enough, to write and perform that perfect song. The lyrics and harmonies that will, through their shared voices, inspire everyone listening to add their voice, to weave a mesh, a connection among all people, a shimmering golden shield between us and the demons, trapping the demons in some other world, some other realm forever. It's a lot. This song they couldn't write. But it's their job. It's what they signed up for. They've trained, they've practiced, they've done everything they can to make themselves perfect so they can bring the perfect song into the world. Zoe, covering up those flashing colors in her head, the bursting ideas, the constant flow of images and words that make her worry that she is both too much and not enough all at once. Mira holding the world back with her sharp edges, cutting words, cleverness, cutting people off before they can get a chance to cut her. And Rumi, whose shame, whose demons show up in the very pattern she hides under the long sleeves of fabulous costumes. Write the song, they're told, and all that goes away. They just need the right song. It doesn't come. Now, they try a diss track, a takedown of this rival boy band that is made up of demons, because it's demon hunting. And these demons figured out that they too could use the lure of music, the lure of fandom, that connection that happens, the need for belonging that we all feel and often deny, to connect, that they could also connect people through fear and insecurity, and that way completely shatter the shield, set the demons free to run among us. And that takedown track, cleverly titled Takedown, well, they get it mostly written. And what they have is clever. It is sharp, devastating, mean even. And it is, in true K-pop style, super catchy. Still, these young women, they know, maybe for reasons they can't even quite name, that isn't the song. And as the story develops, as our heroes move day by day closer to the final showdown, a K-pop showdown in a big amphitheater between them and the evil boy band, they never do find the song they wanted to write. They settle on another song, Golden, our opening hymn this morning, and it's good, it's powerful, it's inspiring, but there's a lingering sense that it isn't quite the song. Not quite the perfect lyrical and musical creation to bring perfect love and harmony into the world between and among all of the people who hear it, to drive the demons out. Because that song doesn't exist. It can't be written. At least not by mere mortals, not even by superpowered demon hunters with three-part harmony, glowing magic weapons, and tight choreography. The song we couldn't write, this is what it sounds like. What our heroes had to learn, what we all struggle to keep learning, is that there is no song, no shield that drives the demons away, not completely, not that cuts them off from us forever, because the demons, they're us. Only part of us, of course, but they are in here with and among and between us. We don't need to look very far to know that. Zoe, Rumi, Mira, in all their efforts to be the perfect vehicle for the perfect song, they couldn't write it because they were trying to write the wrong song. Or maybe not the wrong song. I don't think that's fair. The song they think they need to write is a song that embraces the good and the beautiful and the true in everyone and everything, that banishes the jagged edges, the clashing colors of doubt and fear, the broken pieces that never quite fit within or between us. It would be a song that eradicates evil, eradicates the harm we do to ourselves and to each other in moments of hate or fear or insecurity or indifference. And it would be such a beautiful song. And maybe they couldn't write it because that song can never quite be true. Or maybe it can be true, but true with that capital T as an ideal. I think there are strains of the song out there. What I got from watching this movie, from a cultural movement that I have never been part of, is a way to reflect back on the strains of the song that maybe we hear. Maybe we UUs can hear a different strain of that longed for but impossible song in the ideal of love as the center of our Unitarian Universalist values and theology. A love that hopefully is deep and wide and wise enough to hold everyone in this constantly breaking and remaking world. To hold the marginalized and the powers who make the margins. And everyone who falls somewhere in between, which is, everyone. The harmed and the harmers, the hateful and the hated. That would be a powerful song. It might even in some way exist. It might be the song Jesus or the Buddha tried to teach us. If we listen, if we let ourselves, we can probably hear echoes of some of its phrases, get a sense of what it sounds like. But it's also probably a song we couldn't write, a song we couldn't sing. And that feels a little depressing sometimes. That we can't attain that perfect love. The kingdom is never here, it is always only coming. But that does not mean there are not songs to sing. And I am not depressed by this. It just means that as long as the K-pop demon hunters were focused on writing a song that can't be written, the perfect song, they also couldn't write the song that might be in our power. That's the song they come to at the end of the movie. Because there is another song our heroes couldn't write until they let themselves and each other see the patterns that make up the whole of who they are, individually and in relationship. Those flashing, confusing colors and jagged edges, the anger and fear and selfishness is mixed right in there with the love and kindness and hope and generosity. The sin and the grace in each and every one of us. That song they could write doesn't demand perfection. It does not deny the dissonance of some of our harmonies. To write it, they had to let their own barriers, their shields, down enough to allow themselves to see and to share those hard and unpleasant pieces of themselves and each other. To feel and to know that they are part of the messiness that is our shared humanness. Begin to understand that those dissonant whispers, the demons that live in and among us, do not exclude us from the human family. For good and far too often for ill, those demons are part of this human family. The ways we grapple with them, sometimes in solitude, but hopefully more often in community and relationship, in harmony. They are right there in the interdependent web of existence, in the web of belonging that we cannot escape. The song we can write is a song that knows the imperfections are there. That is where I find the hope. It feels the way each of us is sometimes broken into a million pieces. Krista warned you, movie makes me cry. Broken into a million pieces, that those pieces have sharp, cutting edges, and it still insists that at least some of the time we are seeing all the beauty in the broken glass. A song that does not leave those fears and flaws or demons, does not leave them lingering alone in quiet despair. It is a song that maybe not all the time, but sometimes, some days, maybe, hopefully when we need it most, resonates in our chests, in the spaces between us, sings out, full-throated, possibly off-key. We're shattering the silence. We're rising, defiant, shouting in the quiet, "You're not alone." We listen to the demons. We let them get between us. But none of us are out here on our own. Will it be in perfect three-part harmony? Almost certainly not. Not when I sing it. But when I sing it, it isn't K-pop. Whatever I sing, my song comes from a different place, a different life, a different lens on what life means. Those songs are out there. Now look, it might not ever even be the same song twice, because we probably can never quite get the song right. We're always trying to learn the right harmony, the right words, and they will change. We will never make it what we wish, what we hope it could be, who we wish and who we hope we could be. But there is joy in that. There is hope and love and possibility in the trying, in the singing together, in the rewriting, in the medleys that ring out. When we sing our different versions together. Maybe the universe, maybe love, maybe a harmonizing shared creation is a song we can never quite write. Maybe. Probably. But listen. Hum along. That song we can't write. Part of you at least, kind of knows that this is what it sounds like.
This is what it sounds like. So we were cowards. So we were liars. So we're not heroes. We're still survivors. The dreamers, the fighters, no lying, I'm tired, but dive in the fire and I'll be right there by your side. That's right, Lenny. That's what Gima says. It's Lenny's favorite line in that one. Chad's given us this beautiful overview of the ways we can connect to this message, but I want to take it into another layer of what's happening in this movie and why it's having such a big impact. So it's set in Korea, but mostly in English, right? There are a few lines, that maybe some of you caught it, where the lyrics were actually in Korean. And this is not accidental, right? It wasn't someone who came in and said, I have this story and let's just put it in Korea. The creator and director of K-pop Demon Hunters is a woman who identifies as Korean and was raised in Canada. So it's often referred to as a two-culture child, right? She moves comfortably in both spaces, but sometimes feels a little out of place no matter where she is. And this movie is her story. It is the story of so many immigrants. I've watched a number of her interviews, and you can tell the difference between when she's being interviewed by someone who's white versus when she's being interviewed by someone who is Korean and also a child of two cultures, because they get it. The experience, the sense of never quite being at home. I would venture to guess that many of us in this room have experienced that feeling. Perhaps not being from a different country, but feeling like a part of us doesn't belong. That we have to hide some of who we are. And we can relate to that piece. But I want to help us understand the depth of the culture. Right? So Korean culture and many Asian cultures have a much stronger sense of family order, right? Of the honor that you carry for your family. And so for our main character to be half demon and to feel both a shame that she carries from her family and the expectation of perfection makes her breaking away that much more of a message. I want to read a conversation that happens between Celine, who's kind of the mentor figure we saw in that film, and Rumi, who's the main character who you saw has the demon patterns. And this happens just before the final song that we keep referencing. Rumi says, I spent my whole life keeping this secret, this shame of what I am. And the more I hid this shame, the more it grew and grew until it started to destroy the one thing that gave me purpose, my voice. The more I talk, the more she shares with someone else, the better she feels. But when she confronts Celine, she says, this is what I am. You knew I was a mistake from the very start. Before I destroy what I swore to protect. She's asking Celine to destroy her. And Celine says, everything I was taught told me you were wrong. But I made a promise, so I did my best to accept you and help you. Rumi says, accept me. You told me to cover up, to hide. Celine, until we can fix everything And we still can. We can cover those up, put everything right again. Tell Mira and Zoe it was all a lie, an illusion from Gima to break us apart. Rumi says, no. No more hiding. No more lies. Don't you get it? This is what I am. Look at me. Why can't you look at me? Why couldn't you love me? Celine says, I do. And Rumi says, not all of me. Celine says, this is why we have to hide it, because when Rumi said, not all of me, she sent ripples out through the entire honeymoon. All that they had been built was being destroyed because she felt shame and felt she had to hide who she was. Celine says, this is why we have to hide it. Our faults and our fears must never be seen. It's the only way to protect the honeymoon. Rumi says, if this is the honeymoon I'm supposed to protect, I'm glad to see it destroyed. Think about what a break that is. A break in generations, a break in thinking, a break away from hiding and shame, bringing dishonor to the entire family by showing the shame that is being carried to the world. Brené Brown says, true belonging does not require us to change who we are. It requires us to be who we are. Self-compassion also helps us to move through shame, but we need empathy as well for an important reason. Shame is a social emotion. Shame happens between people, and it heals between people. Even if I feel it alone, shame is the way I see myself through someone else's eyes. Self-compassion is often the first step to healing shame. We need to be kind to ourselves before we can share our stories with someone else. This is the whole story that's happening here. It's pulling apart the superhero narrative of perfection and saying what's more important is authenticity and connection. The demons are the voices in our head that whisper we are not enough. They whisper in our own voice, and sometimes it's hard to tell what it is that's talking. Near the end of this movie, we hear Gima speaking to multiple characters in their own voices, saying, you couldn't keep them together, you're all alone. You thought you found a family, you don't deserve one, you never have. You're too much and not enough. You'll never belong anywhere. You left them behind. You failed. How many of us have ever heard those messages that sound like they're our own voice, but are really our shame demons? I have. I was fired from a job in college and held the shame of that in secrecy for a long time. And I still feel the shame bubbling up in me, just mentioning it or thinking about it even. So what does all of this have to do with what's happening in our world today and how we show up as Unitarian Universalists? Chad made some good connections already, but I want to make one more here. I think a lot of what we're seeing in our nation is reactions to shame. Brené Brown says, when we feel isolated, disconnected, and lonely, we try to protect ourselves. In that mode, we want to connect, but our brain is attempting to override connection with self-protection. She mentions it in a different place, but belonging is a primal need as much as hunger and pain and breathing. We as a social species need to belong. And when our brains override and go into that fear center, it means we have less empathy, more defensiveness, more numbing, and less sleep. And it puts us in fight, flight, freeze, fawn, faint mode. And this is a tool of authoritarianism, right? The polarization that we're seeing is because they are using shame. They're using disconnection to put us in this place of reactionary. They want us to react. They don't want us to think critically or feel or empathize, because when we are not in our prefrontal cortex, when we're living in the back parts of our brain in reactivity, it's easier to control and manipulate us. But to break away, to face that shame, and to be accepted and loved, to find a place of belonging both within ourselves and in community is a powerful antidote and allows us to come back to our hearts, to the love that we profess and center as a faith.